I found these videos get randomly recommended to people who have no clue who I am or how I started this business, so I see a lot of similar questions. The answers can be fairly complex with quite a few different variables in them, so rather than typing that out every time, I thought it'd be much easier just to make a video answering that question, and as those questions come up in comments, I can just post a link to that video. To have one of those questions answered, one of the main things you need to remember is that these are the decisions I made. I'm not saying you should, I'm not saying anyone else in business should. And one of the big filters that I run all these decisions through is the fact that I want to work as little as possible to pay our bills and have a little left over for savings. I don't want to make as much money as possible. I don't want to grow a large trash business to sell or to take on employees. I don't mind if those work days are long work days. Currently, we're clocking in right around 10.5 hours on our current route. We've got 198 cans out, around 170 clients. We leave our house between 3:30, 3:45 in the morning. Usually we're back around 2 p.m. That does include, 40 or 50 minutes of bathroom breaks, 4 or 5 10-minute bathroom breaks, and then we've got a 20 or 30-minute lunch. So that's not 10.5 hours straight working. We do have some breaks in there. That first work day will be full when we have so much to do that we can't do it all before the landfill closes at 5 o'clock in the evening. That'll be when we look at expanding to a second day. Another helpful piece of information to keep in mind for these decisions that I make is the fact that I charge $36 per month for weekly trash pickup. That means on average, I'm getting $9 a week to empty someone's trash can. On the high end, servicing someone's trash can takes about a minute. When we do the math on that, it makes for some pretty crazy numbers. Now, obviously, everything I'm about to talk about is overly simplified for the sake of this video and doesn't account for overhead expenses. But what those numbers mean is that if I had a stretch of 60 clients in a row and I could service one a minute, I could generate $540 of revenue in 1 hour. Now, do I make that much over the course of the day? No, because my route is not that efficient. At the very beginning of our route, we have the most inefficient portion. It can take us an hour to do 20 houses. There are a few parts of our route that are much more efficient where we can get done at least 40 inside of a 1 hour time span. Currently, I don't have anywhere where I can work for an hour straight and get 60 cans just because I don't have that route density yet. But that's the goal, to keep putting out trash cans in the areas where I already have customers to try and reach that $540 hourly rate. So that's another filter I run every decision to. When I think about offering bulk pickup, which I talked about last week, or if I think about offering recycling services, which I'll talk about next week, or in this week's video when we talk about should I rent out my dump trailer, the question I ask myself is, will I make at least $540 an hour doing it? Or will I make close to $540 an hour doing it? Because if not, does it make sense to expand into another avenue of business when I could just focus my efforts towards trash pickup, getting more trash pickup customers in the spots where they already have cans next to them, and getting closer to that $540 cap during the days that I'm already working? Adding customers in locations we're already at, it doesn't add to my fixed costs. It only drives up my variable costs a few pennies a month. Probably the biggest one is the trash can, but over the average 6-year expectancy, we're hoping to keep that customer. Everybody moves on average once every 12 years, so the average of that would be 6 years. If a can is costing me about $70, that means I'm spending about $1 a month on that person's can over their lifetime. There's a little bit of extra wear and tear on tires and brakes. There's an extra minute in labor costs. There's a few cents in fuel costs for that stop. But it doesn't really cost me much to add an additional customer as long as it's somewhere that doesn't take more drive time. So through those two lenses, one, I want to work as little as possible. If I can do it on 2 days a week, great. And two, if I just add more trash customers, I'm looking at roughly $540 an hour. Why don't I rent out my dump trailer? One of the first reasons is because I truly believe if you run a rental company, you have to be okay with people abusing your equipment. And I'm not okay with that. For that reason alone, I don't want to rent my dump trailer out. Some folks have suggested just run it to the person's address or property or work site, wherever it is, and then throw locks on the wheels and say, once it's there, it's not moving until I come pick it up. Now that does solve a lot of problems, but you can still absolutely destroy a trailer just from loading into it. If you've got an excavator that you're dropping stuff into it, if you've got a bobcat that you're tipping stuff into it, there's still a dozen different ways they can mess my trailer up without even moving it. And I don't really want to deal with those things. I don't want to start having to do regular repairs for damages on that dump trailer. So that's one of the big reasons. But then there's the money side. How much money could I realistically make doing that? So let's run a quick example job so we can get some numbers. And let's say the client's only 10 minutes away from me. So that's 20 minutes of drive time there and back, and probably 15 to 20 minutes to hook up the trailer to my truck at the house and then unhook it and wheel lock it all the way around once it's at the site. So 35, 40 minutes. When it's full and ready to dump, let's say that property is in some spot that's 30 minutes to the landfill and it's another 30 to my house. But don't forget the time to get from my house to pick up the trailer, and don't forget the time you're actually dumping at the landfill. That's very easily 1.5 to 2 hours. That's 2 hours of fuel, labor. This work is not work I'd get to do with my wife, so I don't love that. If my trailer can haul roughly 5 tons, that's about $150 if it's full in dump fees that I have to account for. So working backwards, for me to earn a ceiling of $540 an hour renting that trailer out with my dump fees and the 2 hours of work, I'd have to charge $150 in dump fees and $1,080 for my time. That's $1,230 for a dumpster rental. That is crazy. No one would ever pay that. A local competitor here offers dumpsters that are roughly the same size as my trailer for $375 a week that includes 3 tons. That means they earn $285. If somebody drops 3 tons in there and they've paid $375 to do that, well, that competitor of mine now has to turn around and pay $90 to the landfill. They pocket $285 before expenses. If they're running the same 2 hours of fuel and labor from delivery for that cycle that I do, that's $142 an hour before any expenses. I would much rather work at something with a $540 hourly cap before expenses. And then, you know, you haven't even mentioned the insurance cost on that dump trailer that now that you're renting, you'll want to take out. The fact that there's an opportunity cost or a hassle of storing the trailer on our property. That trailer means another 5 heavy tires to maintain, to replace. There's a hydraulic and a battery system to maintain. There's the annual registration on it. All those things bump the required time and costs up even further than the rough numbers I gave. So if you don't value your time at all, or you don't value it very highly, renting out a single dump trailer that you own to bring in a little extra cash can make sense. But when you apply even a little bit of math to the problem, it just doesn't make sense for me to spend my time doing anything other than adding more customers to our current trash pickup route, specifically in spots where they won't add any travel time. That is the work that will get us the closest to reaching that goal of being able to cover all our expenses by only working 2 days out of the week. So then a follow-up question to that will be, well, what are you going to do with the dump trailer? It has been down in South Florida doing disaster relief work for the past few months. I believe it's going to be down there another month or so. When that need is done and completed, there is someone down there that has been using the trailer in that disaster relief work that has expressed an interest in purchasing it. Now, I don't know whether that's going to pan out because we're still a month or so away. But if they have that desire, I'm just going to sell it to them, get it off of my books. Some folks, when I've told them that in the comments, they said, no, you've got to keep it as a backup for if the garbage truck goes down. If the garbage truck goes down, we have so many customers that a dump trailer is not an adequate backup tool. Another garbage truck is really the only backup that would get the work done in the same amount of time. So hopefully that video helped you understand why we don't rent out the dump trailer. Again, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who say, well, just charge really high, and if somebody takes it, then great, you made a lot of money. Again, you've got to run everything that you're thinking through those two filters I talked about, and the fact that if I can make more money doing work I'm already doing, why in the world would I not just focus on doing more of that work rather than starting a whole nother line of business that's going to require infrastructure, insurance, and time? It just doesn't make sense for what my goals are. Thanks so much for watching. Next week, we're going to answer another real popular question. Why don't I offer any recycling services?